Number again, 685-2055.
BCTV, our best show.
Good morning. As far as I understand, the chaos and confusion in the school cuts in British Columbia have now settled down into dull understanding of what might happen. But before I come to that, little battle between Bennett and Van der Zam. Remember Van der Zam here? Just a few days ago, here's what he said.
I've said, I've said publicly that I would not personally support any attempt to cut back on the school year or the time provided in the classroom.
But after the confusion, this is what seems to have happened under the new social credit legislation introduced yesterday. The school year has been cut by 5 days, this year and next year. And if the trustees and the teachers don't come to arrangements for cutting, up to 6 of the professional days, that's when the teachers didn't go to school, are sacrificed. October 15 is now the deadline for school districts, teachers and trustees to try and get together. What it means is a rollback potentially of $30 million in teachers' costs for a couple of days off. It's amazing how it adds up. After that, who knows? The broad interpretation is, however, that the teachers, the best organized, will be well protected. All layoffs will be cancelled if necessary, and the ones who will suffer most are those with the least protection. That's about it. Perhaps more on it later. But now I want to give you a secret photograph of the Social Credit Cabinet in caucus as they decide whether or not there's going to be an election in British Columbia more or less any moment. And this comes from the secret files of Doug Hill. You can see they're in a morass of confusion. Everything's going round and round and round and round. And that's one of the Ontario officials about to pick the date in a lottery from a hat. And first of all, it smells so much, she's got to put on a gas mask to decide what date the election is going to be held. That's Webster's heavy-handed attempt at humor from a Ministry of Science and Technology film prepared under the authority of Dr. Pat McGeer. Be quiet, Doctor. You're not here to tell us about the election. You're here to talk about science and technology after we've disposed of your patent and palpable conflict of interest at the University of British Columbia in relation to tenure. On a more serious side this morning, we're going to have a look at the incredible problem of the number of rapes and molestings of young people in the Lower Mainland area. And we have a little map which gives you a broad idea of the problem facing the RCMP in their investigation with all the forces on the Lower Mainland. And the man who's going to tell us about that is Staff Sgt. Don Brown of the RCMP. However, yesterday, you can't get stuck in politics all the time. I went down to have a look at what could be the world's greatest trampoline, the world's largest trampoline. They're putting up, or starting to put up, the Teflon fiberglass roof panels at the stadium in downtown Vancouver. He's not on a ski slope. He's on the roof of the Falls Creek Stadium. My name, it must not be called the Bennett Stadium. And we're going to give you a report on the Falls Creek Stadium roof after the break. Well, I found myself in some unusual situations in my life, but it's the first time first of all, I'm back at the stadium. And the progress, despite the 25-day stoppage, is quite incredible. There it is, getting near completion, except for the 10-acre roof. And I came down to see some of the 144 panels go up to cover the entire area and to be held up by air pressure. First, they pull them up into position. Then they swing them across and bolt them down. There's a fearless friend of mine clambering across its incredible roof. And the workers are casual enough that they can still chat to us as they're fastening on the panels on the roof.
What's it like at first? Was it a little bit difficult not having done it before?
Yeah, I'd say so. We didn't, we thought this stuff was a lot weaker than what it really is. We thought it would rip real easy. We were trying to pull on it. But now you work with it, it takes, I think it's 200 pounds per square inch. So it's very strong, you know, Teflon fiberglass.
How many sections in a day can you put on here?
One. This is the best day we've had. We put one on, and it's only 5 to 2 now, so we should get this on by about 5 o'clock.
Is it getting easier as you go?
Well, some of them are going on good. You know, I guess as everyone gets to know what's what they're doing.
What's the fussiest part?
This part right here, getting these corners on.
When it's all finished, they assure me it'll go up like a balloon, the top 200 feet above the ground. Now, I'm with Mark Timler, who's the field superintendent for whom?
Dominion Bridge.
For Dominion Bridge.
Yeah.
And what's this device that we are standing on?
A scissor lift. We use that to put on the hardware for the cables.
All right, now, as we go up just now, I believe that there's some rumor that you're going to cover in this stadium with an air bubble. Is that right?
I hope it's not a rumor.
What is it? 10 acres you've got to fill in.
Yeah, Teflon coated fiberglass.
How many skins?
2. There's an outer liner and an inner liner.
And if I may ask, with all these cables hanging low, how the devil is it going to push up above and give it that lovely rounded appearance we see in all these fancy drawings?
There's going to be 16 fans that are going to pump air into it.
16 fans.
Yeah.
Big fans.
Yeah. I don't know what that's not part of our contract. All we're concerned with is putting on the fabric and the cables.
Dominion Bridge puts on the fabric, puts up the cables.
Yeah.
And when the air pressure comes in, it lifts the cables and the roof.
Yep.
And holds it tight.
Yep. That's what it's supposed to do.
That's what it's supposed to do.
All the lights, all the sound system, everything that goes up with it at the same time.
How many have we got? How many of these
Panels up? We got 10.
10. How many you got to go?
30 rectangle panels, 100 diamond panels, which is in here, and 4 triangles
Now let me add that up. 30 rectangle panels,
to go.
10 straight ones up.
Yeah, 4 triangle panels. They're at each quadrant of the stadium, and 100 diamond panels.
Are they made in Canada? No.
No, they're made down in Hazleton, Ohio.
Whatever the
Yeah,
devil
we're
is.
down south.
You're the field superintendent.
No, field engineer.
Oh, the field engineer.
Yeah.
Where are you from, Mark?
Edmonton.
Edmonton. How high up does this scissor lift go?
It's supposed to go to about 40 feet, but we're a little bit overloaded.
What do you mean we're overloaded? You mean we're overloaded because Manning's here? Paul,
Whatever.
Paul, you've gone through all this roof thing all across the continent. There was one celebrated roof somewhere which, because of the heat from the bodies and the breaths of 80,000 spectators, rained on the people inside. Will this one rain on the people inside?
Well, the roof you're talking about was the first one that went up in the Pontiac Silverdome. And they had a single skin, and they found that 80,000 people getting excited. The heat rose and condensed on the ceiling, and it rained down on the inside. That's why we've got the second panel.
Well, that's why it won't happen here. Make sure, the guy down below says make sure everybody stays spread out.
If we come over here to the middle, I think we'll be a little better off, Jack.
Oh, I see. This is so the scissors don't get too scissory and go down.
We were like the bow and the stern of a boat there for a bit.
Funny, I've lost the thread of the conversation
You feel
altogether.
safer in the middle.
Yeah,
We're up above the cables, the lower cables now, and all of these cables are down, but they'll go up with the air and pop up on the top like a balloon. And that'll be your roof. And you've got the 2 panels. The lower panel is for the heat to go up and not run down again, and also if you have snow on the upper skin, you
Just
run...
a minute. I want to tell Bill that there's a guy walking up the roof on a rope there. Do you see him, Bill? Yeah. I'm sure he does. It must be pretty strong stuff, that.
It is very strong. It's about 1/4 of an inch thick, and it's designed to handle just about anything. We don't think a lot of people are going to want to walk on the roof. It's designed to keep the rain out.
Just let's stay in the middle here. Mark,
Yes.
when will you finish the roof? Or let's put it a different way.
When do you hope to be finished the roof?
Well, let's put it an even different way. Can you continue to work on the roof with guys walking up and down on the rope there if it starts out traditional September, October, heavy rains?
Well, we're planning on working in the rain, but just, I don't know. It depends what the men are going to do. I mean, we'll work until we can't work any longer.
We can't work any longer.
I
Another than your 25-day stoppage, are you in good shape?
Aside from the work stoppage, we are in good shape, and we still think we're going to be finished for July next year.
Have we stock went up yet? Can it go up anymore? How much more? Do you think it'll go up anymore?
Well,
Oh, there we go.
they got the two of us up. This is a test of the machine.
Yeah, we're testing the machine. Hi, Vancouver. But that's as high as we want to go. Thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome.
Mark Timmer.
Yep.
You say you're from Vancouver?
No, Edmonton.
Oh,
What am I
you're
doing on a job
You're
here?
a boy from the Flatlands.
Yeah, Flatlander.
Oh, well, you can't help that. Besides, you look quite bright for an Edmontonian. Thank you very
Okay,
much.
thank you.
You can take the scissors down now.
It's going to be on at 9 o'clock precisely.
Pas français, comment ça va, mon vieux?
Ça va bien?
Quel dommage.
That's it.
That's it.
Let's get to work.
Thank you very much indeed. Dr. McGeer, Pat McGeer, the Minister of this and that, Science, Technology, Universities. Yeah, he's in trouble again because he appears to me to be a bit of a hypocrite. Hope that's not an actionable remark, is it, Dr. McGeer?
Well, elaborate.
All right, now, for the benefit of those new generations of viewers who don't know the great McGeer, the brilliant scientist, the clever politician, how long have you been in the legislature?
Just about 20 years.
How many parties have you served under?
Just 2.
Were you ever the leader of a party in British Columbia?
Yes, in the days when the Liberal Party was the great party of Western Canada, I was the leader. But you know, Liberals these days are non-existent in Western Canada, and I think for good reason.
That's right. Anyway, next question. Are you in favor of tenure for university professors?
No, I don't think there should be tenure for university professors, broadcasters, school teachers, or provincial civil servants.
Don't
think
try
we need-
to
I don't
distract
think
me, Dr. McGeer. University professors are well known to have their freedom and security by a system called tenure, which, apart from doing something ghastly on the front steps of the university, ensures their job security forever.
Yeah, that's right. I don't think it's a system that is appropriate at all. And I think that university professors would probably be quite willing to forego that privilege in society if others did the same. We tend to build that in, you know. It's built into the master agreement with the BCGEU. It's built into the teachers' contracts. So people tend to look at university professors as very privileged in this respect.
You are against tenure.
Yeah.
You have tenure.
That's right.
You have been in leave of absence in apparent direct conflict with the University of BC's policy that after a lengthy leave of absence and doing another full-time job, you must surrender tenure.
Yeah, Jack,
That is their policy?
It's not surrendering tenure, Jack, and that's not the point at all. The rule for people who have been on full-time for this extended period is they should resign a position, whatever it is. My particular problem, of course, is that I've had an active medical research program for some 25 years that carries quite a few people, postdoctoral people, technicians and so forth. And where all the money for that program and the employment of those people comes from outside the province of British Columbia. And in order to be the principal investigator, or one of the principal investigators, so that money can be brought into British Columbia and these people can be employed on this medical research project, the principal investigator needs to have a position with a medical school. Otherwise, they don't permit the grant to come. So my problem as an individual is whether that medical research program that has been ongoing for some 25 years would be permitted to continue if I were to run again in politics. And I've made it quite clear. Look, if you don't want the medical research program to continue as a condition of my being in politics, I really don't want to be in politics. I'd like to serve the people of British Columbia. The electors of Point Grey have been very good to me, but that's a little bit too much to give up that medical research program, and I really wouldn't be willing to do that.
Is no one else qualified to take your place at UBC and apply for the grants which employ, and it's undoubtedly first-class research, this is generally accepted and you're praised for it. Can no one else take over your position on these grants to avoid you from breaching the policy of leaves of absence for professors?
No, a medical research grant is a personal thing. It goes to the principal investigator. It doesn't go to the institution. It doesn't go to the postdoctoral person. One of the great difficulties that we have with capable young scientists today is that they very often can't get academic positions at a university, which makes it difficult for them to apply for their research for research grants on their own. This is one of the great problems of science.
That I can understand, but you know yourself as a very political figure. You are very political, correct?
Well, I suppose anybody who runs for office is political. That's the nature of democracy.
And you are Minister of Universities in this government, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And suddenly the Board of Governors accept your additional leave of absence to keep your tenure when you go back to the university.
No, what they're really doing, Jack, is they're preserving a medical research program, and it's
by doing what?
By
allowing you to breach the normal policy for leaves of absence.
No, all that would happen, Jack, if someone to insist that this medical research program be terminated would be for me to say, well, I've enjoyed my time in politics and thank you very much. Now, if it's the wish of people that I do that, I would say I've done my time and I'm happy to leave politics.
If you quit politics now, or if you don't run in the election, will you have tenure when you go back?
If I were to leave now?
Yes.
Yeah, I would merely be doing full-time what I'm now doing part-time as a volunteer.
So, part-time as a what?
A volunteer. You see, for the medical research grants that come in, nothing comes to the principal investigator. That's all the money that comes in a research grant. That's for the postdoctoral people, for the technologists, the equipment, and so on.
Now, I'm sure many of your friends and enemies in the faculty will see this either tonight at midnight. I just want to get it clear. You are the Minister of Universities, correct?
Yeah.
You have great influence on the way universities go and how much money they get.
Not great influence.
Considerable. You have cabinet influence.
I exert what influence I can to see that the universities in British Columbia are well looked after. And
Is there any other professor with grants at UBC who's had the same exemption from BC's policy on leaves of absence? No.
I don't think we have had an active scientist in politics ever before.
And so all these years in politics, you've been doing without pay your neurological research on a voluntary basis?
That's right.
That's dead right.
That's right.
I can see a conflict of interest.
Well,
because of your influence in universities. And the UBC Board of Governors, whatever they do in these fancy places, saying, okay, Pat doesn't have to qualify to normal leave of absences. He can come back full-time anytime he wants to. Is that what's happened?
Yes.
And you're not in the least bit shamefaced about this.
No, but as I say, Jack, if it's the wish of people that I leave politics, I've been there a long time, and I'd be quite prepared to do that. I don't feel particularly strongly about serving in politics again, but I do feel very strongly about maintaining a medical research program. I think that's worthwhile, and of course I want to do that.
Did you have to prevail on the Board of Governors to say, I want my leave of absence extended contrary to normal policy, so I'm free to come back if I quit?
No, look, if they said, we don't want you to do that, I'd have happily left. You see, I don't feel terribly strongly about it.
Webster loses battle with Dr. Pat McGeer. He still doesn't understand it. That's Webster. But if you're not getting paid... I can see how this topic of Dr. McGeer's conflict of interest would raise vast yawns all over the province of British Columbia. But I've got to go back to it for one more second. The rule has been broken by the chairman of Board of Governors for you, so you can continue your voluntary part-time job and still come back with tenure if you quit.
Yeah, but tenure has
Can
nothing
you
to
answer
do
that
with
yes
it.
or no?
His tenure's got nothing to do with
You've
it.
got tenure.
And I didn't ask them. I merely said, does the regulation you laid down apply to somebody who never took full-time leave and uses his position at the university to bring money to the university to carry on a medical research program, which may or may not be important depending on the significance of whatever the group discovers. If I do medical research, Jack, which I do, as people realize, many hours during the week, I'm not every minute at my desk in Victoria, the benefits of that aren't just to the people of British Columbia. If our programs are successful, the benefits go to people everywhere. When I'm wearing my university hat and sitting in the cabinet, I serve the people of British Columbia only. And
Okay.
I'm...
Let me close that topic with one
It's hard work doing two
one
jobs, and I'm glad to give one of them up. But
Which
the only
one are you, when are you going to give up one job?
Well, maybe the public of British Columbia at the next election will say, we've had enough.
Have you been renominated in Vancouver Point Grey?
Yes, I have.
With Gardaí?
Yes, that was a couple of nights ago. But who knows when there's going to be an election? One might be called today.
You know.
No, that's only the Premier knows. And he might call one today, he might call one in 2 years. But this is the decision that has to be made only by the Premier or the Prime Minister of Canada for a national election.
All right.
And he'll make it when it's in the interest of British Columbia to do that.
But you are against tenure for all university professors in principle. And in fact, 5-year contracts are good enough.
That's even too much. And but Jack, I'm also against the provision in the BCGEU master contract, which gives tenure to civil servants after 2 years.
The new contract is after 3 years.
Yes, and the same sorts of provisions which are in the school system. Because tenure of that kind tends to remove the incentive that people need to have to continue.
Why couldn't you just have been reappointed as a full-time professor on paper to qualify for your grant without the added tenure?
There's no reason why not.
Well, who is the chairman of this university now, the head man? Dr. Kenny.
Yeah, but that's not the issue,
Well,
Jack.
Kenny
The
could take
issue-
away your tenure and you'd still get your grants.
You need to have a university position in order to qualify.
With tenure?
No, just a university position.
Well, what's
to
all the fuss
qualify.
about tenure? Tell him you don't want tenure. You just want
I don't need tenure. Look, I don't make the appointments or set the terms. I do apply for grants.
I got
and
it.
That money comes
I've
into
got it.
British
I understand. Can I give you my opinion now?
Certainly.
You are in a conflict of interest.
Thank you very much.
You are in a conflict of interest because of your undoubted influence on university policies while you are a professor full-time or part-time at UBC.
What would you recommend that I do?
Quit politics.
Thank you very much.
Will
should
you?
you make that decision?
No, you asked me and I told you.
Should you make the decision, or should the electors of Point Grey make that decision?
I think you should make the decision.
but you think I should make the decision you recommend.
Yes.
Would you think it fair in a democracy that the electors of Point Grey be allowed to make that decision knowing the facts fully? I'll certainly accept their judgment, but should I accept yours at the expense of the electors or the premier that's asked me to run?
There might be
Or
10,000
should it be
finish that sentence.
or should it be the editorial writers of the province?
No,
or the
not
editorial
them.
writers of the Sun?
No, not them.
But you. Why shouldn't it be the electors of Point Grey?
Because that's
they're the
not
ones
way
that
to
choose
decide what a man of your undoubted brilliance and capability should be doing for your few remaining productive years ahead.
Yes, as I say, I'm quite happy to leave politics, but I'm not sure that the editorial writers or you should make that decision.
You asked
Why
me-
shouldn't the electors who've supported me before and may decide, look,
Well,
we
if-
don't think you're worth supporting, or they may decide, we'd rather have you do medical research. I'm quite happy to abide by their decision.
Well,
But I'm
just-
not sure in a democracy the decisions of this kind should be made by the editorial
For a man of your
writers.
brilliance, that is one of the most equivocal pieces of logic I've had in my life. Surely you are dedicated to your research. You've done 2 jobs, one without pay, for the last 20 years, right? And you're trying to put the responsibility for the decision on the backs of the voters of Point Grey?
Anyway, you, Jack Webster, are telling me to leave politics.
Yes.
Okay,
Because
then I'll take your
probably your work as a neurologist and scientist, which is widely accepted and admired, is more important than your work as a cabinet minister whose duties can be interpreted as a conflict of interest.
Well, I'll certainly take your opinion very seriously under consideration, and I'll discuss it with the Premier.
Don't do that. That was worth doing. The first segment was dull, dull, dull. But we got down to cases just now. And Pat McGeer told me that the Premier is anxious for him to run again. How heavily did the Premier lean on you?
The Premier is anxious to keep all of his team together because we've worked as a group for some years now. We like to think we've done a good job for the province. Maybe we haven't. And when
We'll
the
leave
next-
that to the voters of British Columbia.
Well, they're certainly going to determine it, not you and not the editorial writers, though I think we know where the editorial writers stand.
They don't like you.
Of course they don't. They hate the Premier.
Yeah,
they hate
but
the Premier,
you've been
which is
20 years,
unfortunate.
you've now been 20 years a part-time politician, and I'm recommending to you become a full-time researcher.
That's
Without
based,
going to the voters
based
of
on
Point
what
Grey.
I've done in politics, no doubt.
I would say that is. Let's have a segment of calls to Dr. McGeer this morning. On whatever you like. After the break. Did you a star on the Knowledge Network?
Never been on it. No, I was on it once.
You were on it. We're on the air.
Yeah, yeah.
You're certainly no star here this morning. But some of your flunkies sent a 3/4-inch videotape, of which I stole that silly little piece for the introduction this morning. But there was something in it about silicon chips. Fascinating piece of movie it was. And are you setting up an operation for the Russians to spy on and magic silicon chips at UBC? You read the piece in the Globe and Mail the other day.
Sure. Well, the way I see the future, it's not on the ability to steal knowledge of today, but the ability to develop knowledge for tomorrow. Just up the hill there at Microtel Pacific, the largest research facility in Western Canada was opened the other day. I'm sorry that your television station wasn't there to cover the opening.
If it's anything like your film, it wasn't worth covering.
But you did do a story on the most fascinating aspect of the many excellent work, the researches they're doing up there. And this is to go from the conception of one of these very fascinating and sophisticated chips to the actual production in less than 9 weeks, and they think they can bring it down to 4.
Are these,
Now
for,
that-
are these for missiles and...
Oh, these would be for
computers?
satellite reception, for computers, for sophisticated telecommunications equipment. And I'll tell you, that kind of news will terrify them even in Japan. And it's all very well for IBM to start an enormous suit against some of these electronic firms for alleged spying. But if you can go ahead and design a new and better chip in 4 weeks, what does it matter? Everything is in the skill in laying out and designing that new chip. So it's my belief that we're in the big leagues in British Columbia in terms of quality, though in terms of the quantity, it's still small. Our electronics firms in British Columbia have grown about 30% this past year. So while the lumber industry, the mining industry, and so on is causing so much distress in the economy because it's going down, not enough money to pay the teachers, the health workers, and so on, taxes, development, jobs, that's booming ahead in the high-tech industries. And we simply have to have more of it in British Columbia because that's our protection. And this is one of the reasons why I'm not out of politics today. It's to try and help bring that new industrial development to our province because our future depends on it. And we can be there. That's the important thing.
Okay, can we go to the phones now?
Yes, yes.
Go ahead, please.
Yeah, this University Board of Governors, all appointed by the social credit government, no working people on that board at all, would never have allowed him to carry on like this if he had been an NDPer.
First of all, there are working people on the board because the staff members are represented there. The social credit government does not appoint all the members of the board, and I myself have appointed NDP members to the boards of governors of our universities, people who have been on the opposite side of the house to me. So people who are appointed there are not there because they're friends of social credit. They're there because they're competent to direct the affairs of the university.
Name 2 NDPs.
That have been
appointed to boards of governors.
Tony Gargrave and Ray Parkinson. Ray I've since appointed to the University's Council of British Columbia, former
the psychiatrist
NDP.
fellow.
Yeah, very excellent man and has done a
Okay,
a
sir,
superb
next
job.
call. Go ahead, please.
Hello?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, my comment is more directed to you than Mr. McGeer, because he's against tenure, and I noticed that you just slid over that. You didn't let him go into detail.
Well, I'm against
I'm
tenure.
very much against tenure because, as he pointed out, people don't do their best work when they know that once they're... I know people that work, as a matter of fact, some relatives that work for the government, the liberties that they take.
Take what?
The liberties that they take. They stay away from work at the least little thing. I remember once making a comment to a relative of mine, and she said, well, I can't get fired. I work for the feds. This is the sort of thing we're getting, and this is one of the problems.
That's the slogan
today.
of Canada's
People
rebuilding.
don't do their job on their, and nor do they hold their job on their
Ma'am,
merits.
I don't know why you're mad at
They do
me.
it because they belong to a union.
I've been against tenure ever since I learned the silly word, but Dr. McGeer is against it, but takes it.
Well,
don't-
if
He's given
everybody
it.
else, if you were on the
sure,
job
it's
and
a-
everybody else had it, why
Good.
should he forego it? It should be, you know.
Because he's a man of principle.
They'd be attacking me for trying to ask for a special deal on a type of appointment. You know, you can't satisfy all the people all the time, and all we can do in government is to lay out general policy. But if we were to have a bill that would remove tenure in all fields, all contracts, all universities, all schools, there'd be a tremendous outcry, and it's one of those things that's difficult. You can say it in principle, but to try and actually use your power in government to force that on people who have tenure and have worked very hard to get it, it's part of the union contract.
We're
as
now
you know.
going to have to explain to people that academic tenure is the strongest kind of tenure in the system.
No, I don't believe that's true.
That academic tenure was given for a very basic reason, freedom of speech.
That's correct.
Right.
But that's been forgotten in universities. It's part of ancient history.
That's right.
And tenure is merely job security. That's what it's turned into in universities, and I don't blame
And
other
in
sectors
governments.
of society. And in governments.
And in schools.
And tenure for the purposes of free speech for people who have earned through their competence the rare protection that may be necessary for someone who takes important but contrary views of society. That's long gone. You get on a tenure track in a university, and after 5 minutes you've got it, 5 years you've got it, maybe 5 minutes, and that is a corruption of the original intent. But
Okay.
it's spread beyond the universities, and that's the problem.
But theirs is still the best and the strongest and the most secure job security in the country.
No.
Yes, yes.
BCGEU.
No, that's only 3 years.
Yeah, but you don't get it in a university in 3 years. You work a little longer.
Sometimes you get it in the university before you come to the university, and they give you a job with tenure when you step off the plane from Los Angeles.
Well, only if they're competing with the top man. But all the junior people, they come in without tenure.
Go ahead, please. Go ahead, please. Are you there? You're not there. Go ahead, please.
Yes, Jack?
That's you, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Speak up.
First of all, we're very lucky that we have a man of Mr. McGeer's caliber in British Columbia all around. And I find that the critics, like the editorial writers, even you, if you'd give half as much time as this man has done to the province and to the profession that he's done, if you were, we'd be very fortunate to have more people like him. It's unbelievable how I believe that these editorial writers are more interested in stirring up trouble and trying to sell newspapers instead of helping the people of British
They
Columbia.
certainly are. Thank you, sir. Go,
You see, Jack, everybody doesn't hate me, only most people.
go ahead from Kamloops.
Yes, I'd like to ask Dr. McGeer a question that's been puzzling me for a while. In different colleges and universities across the province, different courses, they don't get credits from one college to another. They can spend a whole year at a college or doing a particular course, and they have to go to another university to carry on this course.
That the man's right, and he's made an extremely important point. And this is universities, particularly the senates, using their academic power to try and establish they're better than the next place by not recognizing the courses.
Snobbery.
Yes, indeed.
Academic snobbery.
Yes, indeed.
Name
And
two offending institutions.
I couldn't name one that isn't guilty of this.
All universities guilty of academic snobbery.
Sure, and even within faculties of the universities themselves. If you take education courses, for example, at UBC, no credit will be given towards a degree in arts. And there's lots of students get caught in the snakes and ladders game where they have to prove not endowment to get their degree, but endurance. And this is not good for the students, and it's not good for the institution. And one of the things that you really need to do is to develop standard rules or standard examinations so that you do get transfer of credit. It's a very, very
Are you
deep
working
disease.
on? Why haven't you cured this? You're the minister.
Well, because the minister doesn't have the power of the academic senate. That's all part of the act. There's only certain things that a minister has authority to do under the act. What we did do was to establish committees under Ian McTaggart-Cowan to try and promote academic transfer so that people would begin to break away from this disease. The other is to just set standard exams so that if you believe you know the stuff, you write the exam. If you pass the exam, you get the credit. It's very difficult to get...
Save a lot of money.
Yeah, it's very difficult to get the school system to put in standard exams,
Must have.
to get the universities to put in entrance exams, or to have within the university standard exams at any level so that the people who think they know the course can write the exam and get the credit. Now, I want to give, having given general condemnation, to say that some places are moving to permit that. Simon Fraser University, for example, is far more flexible than the others in this matter, and they've taken some important steps. That's why they have so many students who are mature students. The other one that does it is the Open Learning Institute, where the name open is the important thing. This man's made an important point.
Thank you for an excellent call, sir. I was about to cut you off, but I saw the good professor's face lighten up and knew he had something to say. After the break. Good ones. Well, Dr. McGeer, you want to talk about the election? You made this silly... no comment. Go ahead, please.
Hello, Mr. McGeer.
Right here.
I'm a UBC student, and there's been quite a lot of rumors gone on there about the grant portion of, you know, you get a student loan, you get a grant portion that's going to be cut. Do you have any information on this?
Well, it's the same story that faces the teachers and everyone else, that there just isn't enough money to go around this year because the public don't have tax monies to send into government.
Well, I wonder then if, like, you're going to have this mortgage relief plan where the people have money interest-free for 4 years or 3 years and a year of grace or whatever the proposal is, why you can't extend that to students, because it would really wouldn't be that much more money compared to what you're going to give to the homeowners, and why we can't borrow the money to make
Sure.
up to the same amount of grant we would have had and pay that back in
Yeah,
3
well, now
years.
look, I'm going to do all that I can to see that the student aid is there to the full amount that's requested. It's not been budgeted, and if the requests go more than the budget, you have to bring forward what's called a special warrant. That has to come before full cabinet, and therefore a minister can't make promises as to what the cabinet is going to do, particularly with the Treasury and the circumstances that it's in today. But we'll do our very best, and the only thing that I've said is that the requests for student grants are exceeding the money that was set aside in the budget, because this year so many students are going back to school because they're
To escape, to hide.
Sure, there's always talk, Jack, about how we've got to spend more money on universities so there'll be accessibility. But every time there's a downturn in the economy, enrollment at our institutions goes up. And it tells you one thing, in my view, and that is the real deterrent to students going to university or any other educational institution isn't the accessibility, it's that they have to leave the job market. So they're going to give up a job that may be earning them $10,000, $20,000, $30,000, and they've got to think very hard, will the value of my education compensate for my not earning money?
Go ahead, please.
Mr. McGeer, I was listening with interest to Mr. Webster suggesting that you get out of politics, but as Minister of University Science and Communications, can you describe your role and how successful you feel you've been at it?
Well, I suppose that's
Okay, the election, no, the election writ has not yet been dropped. No. Next call. Go ahead, please.
Let me get away with that.
Yes.
Dr. McGeer?
Right here.
That was your mother?
No, but I'd be very pleased to answer that.
No. Go ahead, please.
Yes, Dr. McGeer?
Right here.
There's a situation at UBC right now where approximately 300 people missed getting their appointments passed through to the payroll department at the last meeting of the Board of Governors.
So this is obviously something for the Board of Governors to deal with.
Well, I have a feeling our recommendations for appointments, now this is according to Mr. Bob Seeley, the Senior Accountant of Finance, I have a feeling that the last Board of Governors meeting, they were busy discussing your extended leave of absence and didn't get around to the agenda item that involved the salaries of 300 people employed as sectional faculty. Now,
you're trying to pin the blame on me
no, I'm not
for that.
pinning it on you, but the situation is this. We have been informed that we will not receive any salary payment until the end of October. So we'll have worked for 2 months without seeing any pay.
Okay, hold on now, hold on. What kind of appointments are you talking about?
Sessional faculty appointments.
Sessional faculty appointments?
Yes.
And would you normally be paid when?
Monthly.
Monthly, and...
In other words, we should receive a paycheck tomorrow.
And you're not getting, 300 of you are going to miss your paycheck tomorrow because the Board of Governors was too busy discussing the McGeer tenure problem.
That's my assumption. You know, the senior accountant of finance told me that, you know, it's not possible to give a salary advance. We have to wait for the next Board of Governors meeting in October, and we will receive our September salary at the end of October. And he also said if you appeal to the President's office, you will, in all likelihood, be told that you should take out a bank loan to cover the period while you're waiting to receive your salary. Well, I don't think the university is going to pay me interest on the money.
Hold on. One, yes or no? Do you know anything about this?
No, Jack. I think that obviously a Board of Governors is going to get through an agenda, whatever it is.
But we'll have to find out from...
I'll try and find out if the man would like to leave a name or the name of a friend off.
We'll find out.
Good.
We'll put it on there.
Sure, and let me know.
Well, you can watch the television.
Thanks very much.
No, we'll let you know, Doctor. Go ahead, please.
Is that me?
That's you.
Well, I'd like to ask a question on a lighter note to Dr. McGeer, and then I'll hang up and listen.
Good.
Dr. McGeer, you once wrote a book on politics in Lotus Land, which wasn't very complimentary to the Socreds.
That's
How
right.
have things changed today, please?
Well, when I first went into politics 25 years ago, there was one post-secondary educational institution in British Columbia. Now there are 3 universities, 15 colleges, 7 provincial institutes, an open learning institute, and a knowledge network.
That's not what she
Quite
asked
a change.
you. That's not what she asked you,
she
Dr.
said,
McGeer.
She said, what changes have taken place?
She asked you, do you still hate social credit as you did in your book?
No, a lot of the things that have been done, in fact, all the things have been done that were asked for in that book. Our problem now, having gone through the greatest growth period we'll ever go through in British Columbia in terms of education, is how do we finance it when we haven't got the industrial backup? And we've got now to turn to a new type of industry to give us the benefits that we require for the future.
Sometimes I think that you think you're talking to people with very limited understanding. Is that a university professorial tactic of dealing with non-you people?
No, Jack, this is explaining the facts of life. The facts of life being that we're in some economic difficulty.
Some? We sure are. We haven't got the money, is what you're saying.
Yeah, and we really need to reflect upon why our economy is as vulnerable as it is to natural resource turndown. And we've got now...
And I understand you've got some more bad news coming for us. I haven't quite confirmed it, but I'll tell you off the air.
We've also got some good news coming. And the good news is all in advanced technology. The tough news is declining markets for natural resources.
The reason I'm able to speak to you in such a cavalier manner is, one, we've known each other many years.
Yes.
I've always found you convoluted, but reasonably straightforward.
No, I don't say uncomplimentary things about you.
I'm not. You're a university professor. You're not one of the common people. Just a simple question. Will you consider this question and give me a straightforward answer?
Always.
Have you promised Premier Bennett you will run in Point Grey in the next election?
I have been nominated, Jack.
Have you promised Premier Bennett?
Certainly. But again, if the people's wish is that I not do that, and I understand that's your wish, and if you speak for the common person, I would obviously have to say I'm retiring for politics. But you're not the common man, Jack.
Sure as hell, they don't come much more common.
The electors in a constituency are really the people that make the overall judgments in a democracy, and you and I shouldn't go against their wishes.
Patrick, thank you very much indeed. Change of pace now. An RCMP officer, Staff Sgt Don Brown, on what you can warn people and do about this problem of many, many attacks on children in the Lower Mainland. After the break. The public of British Columbia seems to have been overwhelmed with bad news on the criminal front when you go back, and I don't plan to hold inquests into recent ghastly disasters. But the public is entitled to be warned in some detail, if possible, of a rash of indecent assaults and rapes on children in the Lower Mainland since 1977. With me is Staff Sergeant Don Brown, who is involved deeply in this investigation which covers all these areas. Is there a common factor? 77, how many altogether?
There's been approximately 48 rapes since early 1977.
Does that mean 48 different incidents, or were some of them done with 2 or 3 children there at the same time?
Well, these are separate incidents, each of them, the large majority of them, involving 2 or more children.
So there might have been 100 children involved as witnesses or unwilling people attacked by this person.
That's
Do you know if it's one person?
We tend to believe that it is 2 people perpetrating these crimes. Although when you deal with that many crimes, it's very difficult to say. But we would think there's more than one.
What are the ages of the children involved as our first step in the warning, if that's a fair warning to give people?
They're usually about 8 years old to 16 years old, mostly around the 10, 11, 12-year-old bracket.
Now, I know the rapes have taken place, all of these attacks have taken place from anywhere from West Van to Surrey and Coquitlam, right?
That is correct.
And is there any special concentration anywhere which would indicate his residence? are there, the residents of the attackers?
No, we've looked very carefully at that aspect, and they just seem to be here and there without much of a pattern.
Do they appear at any particular time break? Is it every 2 weeks, every 5 weeks, every what?
Well, quite often during the warmer months, they may happen once a week. During the winter months, they seem to peter out somewhat, although we have had incidents in January and February.
In other words, it's just a rash, each where and everywhere, depending on the weather and whatever.
That's right.
Now, what should parents tell their children to watch for in terms of this man's technique, if that's the right word to use it, or modus of operation?
Well, I can tell you that all of the rapes involve children playing in or near school grounds or parks or other recreational areas, and that the person or persons responsible then lure these people or threaten these people in a manner in which he gets further, deeper into the bush with them. Sometimes it's promises of money, sometimes it's threats of being shot.
Sometimes it's promises of money, or he'll say, now, if you don't do as I tell you, I could shoot you.
That is right.
Has he ever shown a gun of any kind?
A gun has never been seen in any of the cases, and yet there are perhaps 14 or so out of the 48 cases we cite where the first words spoken by this man have been something to the effect, I've got a gun on you, don't move, don't look at me, or do you know what a gun is?
And this will be 1 or 2 or maybe even 3 children in a recreational or near a school ground area of some kind.
Yes, that's right.
Now, on the actual attacks, oh no, does he ever pose as some kind of an official?
Yes, in a lot of instances, he leads the children to believe that he is an undercover policeman, a private detective, a parks board, school board official, a variety of things indicating people in authority.
Does he have that kind of appearance?
Not usually. Quite often he's dressed in blue jeans, faded blue jeans, blue jean cutoffs, a variety of outfits.
Now, we've got one picture up on the monitor just now where he's wearing this composite. This is not a specific suspect. This is a composite from what you believe are reliable descriptions.
Well, this particular one is a police artist drew this picture or photo from the descriptions given by an 11 and 12-year-old girl. 11 and 12-year-old girls.
The hat on that man at that time was what kind of cap?
That was a Canada Post.
A Postie's cap.
Yep, very common throughout all of the areas. And they've been issued 2 postmen since 1969. So he may have found it in a garbage or whatever.
Now, there's another composite which we'd like to see now, I think. And is this, does he have any resemblance to the first man? He's up on the monitor now, Don. Or not? Is this a second potential composite suspect?
Yes, it is. We feel this is the same man that was depicted in the first one, but without a hat and obviously a lot more hair showing, perhaps even a wig. Mm-hmm. On several occasions, this man has indicated that he's wearing makeup, mustaches, disguises of all kinds.
Oh, tell me about the mustache caper.
Okay, one of the instances that happened in Richmond last year involving 2 young children, 9 and 11 years old, when they reported the incident to police, they included the fact that during this man's haste to get away, after an indecent act was committed, that his mustache actually fell off.
He's more than just an ordinary exhibitionist, this man.
Very definitely.
And his description? I mean, his height.
His height is described as anywhere from 5'8" to about 6'1". We believe probably about somewhere in between there, about 5'10".
Fairly huskily built.
Yes, a lot of people describe him as medium or athletic build.
Particularly obnoxious, well, anything like this is obnoxious, but he's dealing with young children who cannot physically resist him. Is that a fair statement of fact?
That's right. We feel he's spending a lot of time lurking in parks and choosing his victims very well.
How much do you want, I know you want total cooperation, but do you want to be flooded with phone calls of people who see somebody around a school ground or a recreation yard with no incident actually having taken place?
Yes, if the man is there for no apparent reason, shows an interest in young people around that area, or is just loitering, watching people.
You want to know about loiterers, people
Yes.
who chat up kids.
Yes.
A man by himself, does he use a car at all, as far as you know?
No, we've had no descriptions of cars at all.
He may well use a car, but you've had no descriptions of any cars in the immediate area.
That's correct.
Now, I'm going to come back to Staff Sergeant Don Brown of the RCMP with some more advice for you, for everyone, after the break. I think it would be good, Staff Sergeant Brown, to let people know some more of the gimmicks this guy uses. Is he basically always his act that of an authoritarian figure, some kind of figure in authority?
No, it isn't. This same person has been known to lure kids or young children into the bush by suggesting he's looking for a sick duck, a hurt dog, a rabbit, or even helping him look for his keys on a path in the bush. The methods are really varied.
So the warning to people is that children between any age up to 16 must be told that if anybody approaches them with any device to seek their help in or around a lonely or a recreational area, this is potentially the man.
That is correct, exactly.
And you want instant phone calls to the nearest police station?
That's right. We prefer to the nearest police station, so the response time to that complaint can be very short.
And you make quick responses in these ones?
Yes.
But it's not to be depressed about it, but which of course one is. The only way you're going to get this guy really is to arrest him in the act or before an act or after an act.
That seems the most logical. We've been going on now for 4 or 5 years, and we still haven't apprehended him. There are other, difficulties in the cases that we're usually going by the word of a young person telling us about a short period of time out of their lives when they were under a lot of duress, and descriptions are sometimes very poor, and it does hamper the...
He has been known to produce a knife.
Yes.
He has been known early on, and when was it, 78, to produce talk about a gun.
That's right.
It's a tough one.
Some of those still continue. That old modus operandi he used back in 1977 or 78 is still occasionally seen.
And you're sure this guy who's done these 48 rapes and indecent assaults has been operating since 77?
Yes.
Now, is this one of these computerized joint operations, or is this merely a local operation in which you have to try and catch him when he appears? Is it properly coordinated, I'm asking?
I believe it is, and I believe it has been over the years.
And you now have a full joint cooperation between all the police forces on this? Or have you stepped it up in recent months or years?
The only difference that we have made since about early June of this year is that our headquarters department has devoted 3 or 4 men to work on it constantly to develop new suspects and check out leads that perhaps other departments are too busy to.
So you're coordinating, in other words, you're going through all the known offenders of this kind of thing and trying to match them to times and places.
That's right. We're doing everything we can on it. We've checked with quite a well-known psychologist who has read quite a few of the files and given us a psychological profile on this person, what she feels he may be doing.
His motivation, in other words.
Yes.
He's looking for a needle in a haystack, though, isn't it?
It seems like that sometimes, yes.
Unless, of course, some lucky break and an adult comes across him. If an adult came across a youngster in the act of this man in the act of molesting, would you suggest that he try to apprehend him?
Well, it would...
Depends on the circumstances, doesn't it?
That's right.
I mean, if you're a big fella and he's a wee guy, if not, you would try and keep an eye on him and get somebody else to call the police.
That would probably be the best. The man has been seen with a knife. He has spoken about guns in his pockets. And
do you think that you've got all the indecent assaults, or will a number of them not have been told to you? What's the pattern on that?
We've discussed that at length, and yes, Jack, we feel that probably a number of indecent assaults or rapes perpetrated by this person may not have been reported to us. Just since the Vancouver Sun article, one of the recent gimmicks this chap is using is he's posing as a Sun photographer and asking children to come back in the bush for a better background or whatever reason. An incident where he attempted to do that to 3 children down in Winskill Park in Delta just 2 days ago now hadn't been reported to us or to the Delta police. As a result of the province news story day before yesterday, the mother of one of these children called in and reported it.
Well, that's good. Was there an assault on that occasion, or did the kids get away?
No, there wasn't. The kids very smartly ran away.
Now, he must be a real psychological weirdo, because I think you were telling me, I read somewhere about him making youngsters pick straws. What was that?
Yes, this is another one of the things he does just prior to the assault. He speaks about embarrassing the children so they won't tell their parents or police what has happened to them or what they've done with them. And if there, for instance, if there are 3 children that he's dealing with, he'll hold straws in his hand or little sticks and offer it to the children. The one who picks the shortest stick, for instance, will be the one that he will indecent assault or.
And he'll just attack the one of them.
That's right.
He is a real weirdo, isn't he?
Yes, I agree, he is.
And potentially very dangerous.
Yes, he is.
Dear, oh dear. Okay, if you have any questions about this, we'll have a segment of calls for you to speak to Staff Sergeant Don Brown of the RCMP and myself after the break. Somebody must know him.
I believe so.
He must live in the Lower Mainland area.
Yes.
And there is a concentration in around Vancouver and Burnaby, really, is there not?
Earlier on, a lot of offenses were committed in Vancouver. Now it tends to concentrate in the Surrey, Delta, and Burnaby areas.
The recent ones are the Surrey, Delta, and Burnaby areas.
Yes.
Would you expect somebody who lives with this guy, or his mother and his father, who suspects it, to turn them in as a suspect?
I would hope they would. Obviously, this person spends an awful lot of time by himself in his off hours if he's working, you know, alone in park areas.
All daytime?
Early afternoon to early evening.
So he's either out of work or whatever, or working night shift perhaps. How many have you had recently, like in the last month?
We've had three of them this last month. We've had 13 this year total.
Out of the total of 48?
Yes.
Okay, now will every call get answered right away? If somebody phones you, will they get a call back right away?
Oh, yes.
Would you want the phone calls to headquarters?
Well, we would prefer, because of the response time, that calls be made to the local police authority.
Like in Vancouver, phone Vancouver City Police?
Yes.
Surrey RCMP?
Right.
Delta Municipal Police?
That's
North
right.
Van, West Van, RCMP?
Right.
And they should state quite clearly that they think they have information about, what did you call this guy?
We call him the paper bag or blindfold rapist.
Paper bag rapist?
Yes.
If it's mustache, wig, blindfold, paper bags with holes cut out.
Right.
Maybe a knife, maybe talk of a gun, pretending to be somebody in kind of authority.
Yes.
Oh, jeez, oh. Hate doing these programs. Go ahead to Staff Sergeant Brown. Hello, where are you?
Right here.
Speak up, ma'am.
My question to Sergeant Brown is that I'm a block parent coordinator, and I feel with people like this running around, the program is an essential part for children to have a safe place to run. And we are not receiving any funding. It's a very bad situation as far as financially.
Well, ma'am, we can't get into the funding of block parents at the moment. I'm sure Staff Sergeant Brown can't answer that any more than I can.
Well, I have another question then. Last week I received a call from one of my block parents saying that her little boys were walking back home through Confederation Park and had been asked by an older man, not an old man, but a teenager, older than a teenager, if he could walk them home. They ran away and they came home, and she phoned me and I phoned the RCMP. It was 2 days before I got a phone call back from the RCMP.
Would that be normal, Staff?
I don't think that would be normal. Usually a uniform patrol car would answer those calls fairly quickly. and later pass it on to the morality section.
Well, I did not phone the emergency number. I phoned the RCMP office in Burnaby, and the lady who took my call said that she'd have an officer phone me back, whereupon I was going to give him the information and he could go and see the boys.
And you say it was 2 days?
But it was 2 days.
If it was an information call, it could be answered 2 days later because these calls may be stockpiled, handled by the morality
If it's an emergency call, it'll be answered right away.
Absolutely.
Well, make it emergency. Go ahead, please.
Good morning. I've got a 7-year-old that thinks that he can conquer, the world. How do you get that through their head, just how dangerous a man like this is?
Well, I can only suggest that you be honest with your 7-year-old and tell him of the dangers, and have him play with as many friends as he can at one time, and just caution him.
Okay, ma'am. Go ahead, please.
Hello, good morning.
Morning.
Yeah, Jack, I'd like to ask Sergeant Brown if him or his people have made any kind of presentation to the schools to get right at the root of the problem that seems to be happening in schools, places like that.
I haven't, but I'm aware some of the other police agencies looking after specific areas such as Surrey have gone to, through their police community programs, have brought this to the school's attention, yes.
I think it seems like a good idea. Ought to be looked into in the Vancouver area.
Good idea. Go ahead, please. Hello. Hello.
Is that me?
That's you.
Yes, good morning, Jack. With all due respect to Sergeant Brown, I'd like to make this comment.
Go on, make it.
I'd like to make this comment that the Vancouver police here in Vancouver hasn't been effective or efficient in reducing crime or anything. They're only good for giving traffic tickets.
Thank you very much. That's a very kind and generous remark for you. I'm prepared to kick the devil out of any police force at any time, but on this particular occasion, what we are trying to do in a sane manner is to get parents alerted to the fact that once more you must warn your children to be careful what they do, where they go, when they do it. And it's got no relation to traffic tickets whatsoever or any other problems the police have had in the recent past. That kind of call really annoys me. And my record of knocking the police is as good as anybody's. The object of the exercise is to attempt to get public cooperation to catch this fink. Go ahead, please.
Yes, hello. I agree with what you're saying and everything like that. There's only one thing that kind of bothers me is over the past few years, in this community and in other communities, there's always been a big push on to warn people about things like this, and I agree with that.
And it's got to be done again and again, or people
It's got to be
forget.
done again and again. But how about say in Stanley Park? Let's say that I go down to Stanley Park, which I do quite often. I live not far from there, and I'm sitting on the beach or I'm sitting in one of the parks, and a couple of kids come up with a frisbee, or they're throwing a frisbee around or a ball or something, and it comes near me. I pick it up and I throw it back to them. I ended up playing with them. But if all the kids in the world are scared to death of this sort of action, as soon as I was to touch the frisbee, that somebody phoned the police.
Well, it's a question of common sense. You're being a little bit paranoid. If you're sitting there with your wife or your kids and you're on an open beach and you kick a football and you behave in a normal manner and don't do anything weird, queer, or kinky, that's perfectly all right, name of goodness. I chat to everybody I ever see, and nobody ever considered me as a potential molester. I mean, it's a question of using your common sense, in the name of goodness. And am I daft? Our kids were always warned clearly and succinctly, don't talk to strangers. Don't have anything to do with strangers. Better make them a little bit paranoid about strangers than have them into some dreadful jackpot. Go ahead, please. Hello. Where are you?
Is that me?
That's you.
Oh, well, what I wanted to say is, has he got some sort of schedule? Is it the morning, the afternoon, evening, or just when? Is there a pattern that he has?
No, there's no set pattern at all that we can determine. As I said, these offenses happen anywhere from early afternoon to 6, 7, 8 o'clock in the evening.
Daylight.
So
Daylight hours.
It's always daylight hours, is it?
Yes.
Yes, and I was going to suggest the same thing about the schools. I think perhaps bringing it to the attention of everyone at school. would probably have a better chance, and then maybe there'll be some children come forward who didn't report things in.
Agreed, ma'am. Go ahead, please.
Yes, Jack. I just moved into an apartment in New West, and there's a little chap come up to me about a week ago because a couple of teenagers were picking on him, so I offered to give him a ride home. Now, his mother tore a strip off of me saying, well, you know, you should have let him walk home. You know, is this what we're going to be in for with this sort of...
Well, that is a tricky situation, isn't it?
It certainly is.
Again, it's your common sense. You phone the parent and say, there's a small boy here who can't get home. Do you want to come and get him? Do you want me to bring him home?
The problem with that is the young boy didn't know his phone number.
How old was the boy?
I'd say he was around 6.
I'd have been tempted to phone the police and say, there's a youngster here who's been frightened by a couple of people. Please come and pick him up. And then you've called the police. You ipso facto are as clean as a whistle. Good idea, if you're nervous about that kind of thing?
Sure. I think the gentleman did what he thought was right, and there's nothing wrong in it, really.
No, nor do I think that. I pick up people on the highway, and I'm always very careful how and when I pick them up. Sometimes funny things happen to them. First thing I do when somebody comes into my car is I tell them my name, if they don't know.
Right.
And if they're obnoxious, I stop and roll them out. My thanks. Best of luck. Phone your police detachment if you have any suspicions about this weirdo who's terrorizing this place since '77. I'll be back after the break. If you're a commercial fisherman, you'll hate my guest tomorrow morning. He wants to half the fleet, royalties and salmons. Sport fishermen double the licenses. One of the most popular guys in the West Coast, I'm sure he is. Dr. Peter Pierce, on his final report on how we can salvage a dangerously sick industry, fishing. 9 a.m. precisely. Love Me Tenure, Pat McGeer on Check at midnight, precisely.
That's because I'm standing.
Fishing Commissioner Peter Pierce, tomorrow at 9 a.m. precisely.